So today I wanted to speak a little bit about Ekadashi. We follow Ekadashi vrata, and we of course have some understanding of why to follow, why not to follow, or consequences of not following. And I was hearing this set of lectures on Ekadashi by devotees. One of them by Lal Govind Prabhu. And I liked the fact that how they had collected a lot of details and put it together and explained the significance of Ekadashi, how to follow, and the process to follow. So, with your permission, I'll speak a little bit about it and give some scriptural references about this important important festival or important fasting day. I'll start with the Manglacharan. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaha Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saguna Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Saguna Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Taptakanjana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vacharam pangam nangyate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurudina Taranam Paramanandam Madhavam. Okay, so literally the word Ekadashi, it means 11. So Ek is 1, Dash is 10, Ekadashi is 1 plus 10. So means 11. And in the lunar calendar, a month is divided into two pakshas, which is each 15 days. So one is called the Shukla Paksha. So when the moon is heading towards Purnima, full moon, and it is also known as a bright fortnight because the moon grows brighter and brighter. And the other is Krishna Paksha, which is the dark fortnight where the moon is heading towards new moon or Amavasya. And it's called dark because the moon is diminishing, its light is diminishing. So each are 15 days, and the 11th day in each Paksha is called Ekadashi. So in the Padma Purana, the pastime relating to the origin of Ekadashi is given. And as in a lot of pastimes, especially Puranic pastimes, there are slightly different versions of it without the essence being changed. So Ramput Maharaj would explain this as Kalpa Bheda, that maybe the pastimes occurred in different days of Brahma, so there are little differences. So in the Padma Purana it is stated that there was once a very powerful demon by the name of Shankachura. And once when Brahma was nearing the end of his day and he was getting ready to sleep, so the Vedas came from the mouth of Brahma and Shankachud stole the Vedas. So Brahma became very perturbed because the Vedas are powerful, and one with the knowledge of Vedas in the wrong hand can create havoc. So he prayed to Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu appeared as Hayagriva, as the Hayagriva avatar. This is the Lord's incarnation as with a horse head. So he appeared as Hayagriva. He killed Shankachud. He retrieved the Vedas and gave it back to Brahma. Now Shankachud had a son known as Mura demon. And he became very angry when he heard that Lord Vishnu has killed his father. So, with view of taking revenge from Lord Vishnu, he performed severe austerities, tamsik tapa, to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, he is Ashutosh, he is quickly pleased. He's also called Bholenath, he's simple. So, he gave Shankachud many benedictions by which he became very powerful. So powerful that he defeated all the demigods. And the demigods, they went to Lord Vishnu, as usual, that when the Devas are in trouble, they go to Lord Brahma, or along with Lord Brahma, they go to Lord Vishnu. So this time they went to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu said, "Don't worry, I will help you." So he entered the battlefield and he fought with Mura for a very long time. And after that, and this is the Lord's Leela, after that the Lord, he pretended to be very tired. So tired that he left the battlefield and went away. And this is Lord's Leela. Lord is also known as Ranchor. We know in his Bhaumya Vraj pastime that when Mathura was attacked by Jarasandha and Kalyavan, then Krishna ran away from the battlefield. That's how he got the name Ranchor. And in his childhood pastimes also, Krishna had this habit that if they were playing a game and if he won, then he would basically take the benefits of winning, which is maybe climbing on the back of the other gopas or giving them some punishment. But if he lost, and the other gopas would say, "Okay, Krishna, you've lost, we'll get on your back, or you have to do this punishment," then he would run away immediately. So Krishna had a lot of practice in running away. So here also he ran away, and Mura demon started following him. And as per some, Krishna went to Badrika ashram and he entered into a cave. So, the demon following Krishna, he came to the cave, and inside he saw the Lord was peacefully sleeping. So he became very, very angry. He was already angry, but now he became very angry. And actually, it is said that the best way to defeat the enemy is by not being affected by them. So the best way to defeat an enemy is by not being affected by him. So Mura was like, I've been fighting, I did so much of austerities to defeat Lord Vishnu, and here he is completely unperturbed. He is peacefully sleeping. So he became very, very angry. And then he raised his sword to kill the sleeping Lord Vishnu, which is a sinful thing to do. Because it is said that, in the Bhagavatam actually it is said that matam pramatam unmatam suptam balam striyamidam prapannam viratam bhitam na rupum hanti dharmavit. So matam pramatam unmatam, that there are 10 kinds of people that should not be killed. 10 kinds of enemies that should not be killed. One who is careless, intoxicated, insane, sleeping, one who is afraid, one who is devoid of a chariot, one who is a child, a woman, one who is mentally weak, or one who is surrendered. So, as per the rules of battle, these 10 people should not be harmed. This appears in the Bhagavatam in the discussion between in the pastime of Ashwatthama, first canto, 7th chapter. Now, at this point, Lord Vishnu is sleeping. So, as per the Vedic etiquette, Mura should have restrained himself, but he did not. He raised his sword and ran to kill the Lord. And then at that time, from within the Lord, from his internal potency, a young girl appeared. And she had all kinds of weapons. And with the weapons, she immediately annihilated the army of Mura. So Mura had come with a big army. So she killed the army of Mura. And then she approached to kill Mura also. So Mura was terrified at this point to see the prowess of this lady. And Lord Vishnu had also gotten up, so he fell at the feet of Lord Vishnu and begged for his forgiveness. So the Lord said that you are impious and sinful, and you don't deserve to live, but because you have surrendered to me, I can allow you to live, but you have to leave this Brahman. So Mura said that this is the only Brahman that I know of. I do not know of any way to leave this Brahman. So then the Lord thought and then said that today is the 11th day of the lunar month, and on this day you get to reside in the grains. So on the 11th day of the lunar fortnights, it is said that the personification of Mura demon resides in the grains. There's another pastime also related to it, and I'll speak about that. So continuing in this pastime, so Mura went away, and then the Lord turned to this young lady who was essentially his own internal potency, and he asked him, "Who are you?" So according to certain acharyas, she answered that aham Ekadashi, that I am one of your servants. So Ekadashi became Ekadashi. And the Lord also said that since today is the 11th day, that will also be your name. So Lord Vishnu was so pleased. He also said that you ask me for any benedictions. And Ekadashi Devi, being non-different from the internal potency of Lord Vishnu, she had the same conception, which is the welfare for everyone. So she says that give me some benediction by which I can be the cause of welfare for everyone. So Lord Vishnu was even more pleased. And he says, na bhute na bhavishyati, that I will give you such a benediction that no one in the past or the future will get. That this day which has become famous by your appearance, by your mercy, if anyone will fast on this day, he will get my pure devotional service. So bhakti is considered to be sudurlabha, very difficult to attain. But the benediction is considered to be incomparable because by Ekadashi vrata, one is able to get that which is very difficult. So one can get so many other things by austerities. One can get mystic powers or material opulences. Bhakti is very difficult to get. But by Ekadashi vrata, generally austerities give material prowess. But Ekadashi vrata is one where by a little bit of austerity one gets that which is very difficult to attain, which is bhakti. Now there is a slightly different explanation of this or narration of this pastime, which kind of adds on to what has been said over here, that by the benediction of Lord Vishnu, the residents of the planet Earth, they began to follow the Ekadashi vrata, and they attained bhakti and they were going back to Godhead. So the personification of sin. So we know that from in the Bhagavatam it is said that when Brahma does the Visarga, the secondary creation, then he also creates all the sinful activities. In fact, he creates that before he creates pious activities. So, and these activities are actually, just like there is presiding deity for pious activities, there are presiding deities for sinful activities. So there is Papa Purush, who is considered to be the overall presiding deity for all sinful activities. And when he noticed that people were following the Ekadashi vrata and going back to Godhead, so he went to Lord Vishnu to pray to Lord Vishnu, saying that even I am your creation. And by your benediction, everyone is expunging themselves of all sins and going back to the spiritual world. So pretty soon there will be nowhere for me to live. I will die. And then Lord Vishnu said, no, I will give you a place to live. That on the 11th day of the month, you will reside in grains. And those who will eat grains on this day, they will come under your dominion. So that way, Papa Purush was happy. And because of this, the side effect of this benediction, one is the benediction given to Mura demon, that he could live in the grains. Second is the benediction given to Papa Purush, that he could live in grains on the 11th day. So it is said that on Ekadashi, the grains are containing sin personified. And those who consume grains, even if they are not explicitly performing sinful activities, even if they are not stealing or lying or killing, but because they are consuming grains and because sins are residing in the grains, it is as if that they are performing sinful activities. So the basis of what Srila Prabhupada has given us is that we act only as per the scriptures. Actually, in the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, in the conversation between Devahuti and Lord Kapila on the banks of Bindu Sarovar, Devahuti asks her son, who is the personality of Godhead, that who is a sadhu? And Lord Kapila gives different qualities of a sadhu, that one who is tolerant, one who is truthful, one who is compassionate. And then he says the most important quality of the sadhu is that he follows the scriptures. And conversely, if you look at the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Divine and Demoniac Nature, Krishna says that the quality of the asuras is that they act whimsically. So, I'm making this point to emphasize that Ekadashi is as per the scriptures. So there are many kinds of upavasas, right? People will fast sometimes on Monday or sometimes on Saturdays or Fridays. Most of them are laukic. They're cultural, and it's, they have some benefit, but they're not Vedic. The fasting for Ekadashi is a Vedic injunction. So the analogy that is given is that if a person is thirsty, then the only thing that will quench the thirst of a person is water. Not honey, not ghee, even though they are more opulent than water, but only water can quench the thirst of a thirsty person. Similarly, only following the instructions of the Lord can please the Lord. One can speculate that, well, I can do more. That why fast on Ekadashi? I am fasting every week. And this is actually one of the conversations I remember happening with the one person who was coming to our Bhakti Vriksha earlier on. So we were having this discussion on Ekadashi and said fast once in 2 weeks. And he said, oh, why 2 weeks? I actually fast twice every week. And for two different devas, demigods, he was fasting. So it's not the question of doing more, but it's the question of doing what is recommended. Like Krishna says, right? Bhoktaram jagatapasama sarva lokmaheshwaram surdam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shanti rachati. That only when one understands that the ultimate purpose of all austerities is to please me, then only he attains peace. Prabhupada would call this the peace formula. So what does Krishna give in the Vedas? That how do you please him? That he says that you can please me by following Ekadashi. So typically when we do any service, we do it with the heart. So we do it with emotions, with love, with happiness. But when we come to a decision, we use our intelligence. Like I remember that when the devotees in the Bhakti Vriksha were starting their service in the temple for dressing Srila Prabhupada, and there was a lot of discussion in terms of the logistics, that this day I am free, this day I can come, and this is convenient to me. So it was a decision-making process where one was making full use of intelligence. And of course, when the service is done, then it is done in this mood of devotion and love and respect. So similarly, if you are looking to make a decision as why we should follow Ekadashi, then we should use our intelligence and use the intelligence to see what do the scriptures tell us about the relevance of Ekadashi. So in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatan Goswami. So Hari Bhakti Vilas was written by Sanatan Goswami based on the instructions that he receives from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kashi. He was there with him for 30 days and Mahaprabhu was instructing him, and based on that he wrote the Hari Bhakti Vilas. And there he says, Om Namo Bhagavad Tasmaya Yasya Priyatama Itithi Ekadashi Dvadashi Cha Sarva Bhishta Pradhanranam. That Om Namo Bhagavad Tasmaya. So he's saying, I offer my obeisances to that Lord, Bhagavad Tasmaya, Jasya Priya Tamatithi. Whose favorite tithi, whose favorite day is Ekadashi Dwadashi Cha. Whose favorite day is Ekadashi Tithi. Ekadashi and Dwadashi. Ekadashi for fasting and Dwadashi for breaking the fast. Sarfabhista Pradhan Nirna. Then in the Matsya Puran, it is said that Ekadashayam Nirharo Yo Bhongte Dwadashi Shukleva Yadi Krishna Tadvartam Vaishnavama Mahat. That Ekadashayam Nirharo, that one who fasts on Ekadashi, Yo Bhongte Dwadashi Dine, and then one who breaks fast on Dwadashi. So we see that there are injunctions for both. So it's not that one will say that I'll do more. I will not only fast on Ekadashi, I will also fast on Dwadashi and Triyadashi. No, that is not recommended. One will not get the benefit. So Ekadashiyam Niraharo Yo Bhongte Dwadashi Shukleva Yadi Krishna. So both the Ekadashi, Shukla and Krishna. So we had mentioned the waxing and the waning moon, the dark and bright fortnights. Tadvartama Vaishnava Mahat. That such fasting is very auspicious for Vaishnavas, for the followers of Lord Vishnu. In the Agni Puran it is said, Ekadasyam na bhunjate vartvam etam vi Vaishnav. That he who is dear to Vishnu does not eat grains on Ekadashi. Very similar quote is given in Vishnu Smriti that Ekadasyam na bhunjate kadachit api manava. Api manava means one who has got the human form of life. Ekadashyam na bhunjate. That such a person does not eat on Ekadashi. In the Skand Puran, and it's an admonition that what are the consequences of eating on Ekadashi. So Skand Puran says that Matrua Pitrua Cha Bhratura Guru Cha. So Matruha, Ha means Hanyate, Hanan, that killing. Matruha Pitrua Bhratura Gurua. Ekadashayam to wo bhungte Vishnu Loka Chuto Bhayat. That one who eats on Ekadashi, the sins are equal to the killing of Matrua, mother, Patra, Pitra, father, Bhratur, brother, and Guru. And Vishnu Loke Chutobhave, that even if this person somehow reaches Vishnu Lok or Vaikuntha, he will fall from there. Now, firstly, the person will not reach, but this is given as Praman, that even if this person reaches the most exalted place, Vaikuntha, he will still fall for there. Similarly, in the Brahma Vaivar Purana, it is said, Sa keval agame bhungte, yo bhungte hare vasare. So keval agame bhungte. That one only eats sins, yo bhungte hari vasare. That one who eats grains on Ekadashi. And later it is said that so dineta sarvapapani bhavanti anya sthitani cha ta tani moya ne yustanti narsya pape vimuchyate. That on this day all sins reside in grains. And tani moya ne yustati narsya papa vimuchyate. That even if one eats grains by mistake, one will get contaminated by sins. So who all should follow Ekadashi? And in the Vishnu Dharmottara Shastra it is said, Brahmachari grahasto va vanaprastha yatayati ekadashyam hi bhunjano bhongte go masan evahi. that brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha and yati, so sannyasis. So sometimes people say that Ekadashi is only meant for sannyasis or brahmacharis, not for grahasthas. Sometimes it is said that Ekadashi is only meant for widows, or sometimes it is said that it is only meant for celibate men, sannyasis. But here it is clearly said whether the person is brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha or sannyasi, a person belonging to any of this ashrams, ekadasham hi bhunjane bhunkte gomase eva hi. That if a person is eating grains on Ekadashi, it is as good as eating gomasan eva hi. He means certainly. Certainly it is as equivalent to eating the flesh of a cow. And later on it is said, Ek eva narapapi narke nirpagachati ekadashi anabhoji yah pitrubhi sa mayati. So, Ek eva narapapi narke nirpagachati. That if a person performs sinful activities, then he goes to hell. But ekadashi anabhoje yah pitrubhi samajati. That, but if a person eats grains on Ekadashi, then he takes his whole family to hellish conditions. So it is better to be sinful than to not follow Ekadashi. So even the demigods follow Ekadashi. In the Padma Puran, Lord Shiva says to Parvati Devi that Ekadashi tu upvaso kartavya na atra samshaya. That following the kartavya means it is the duty. Ekadashi tu upvaso, to follow fasting on Ekadashi, na atra samshaya. There is no doubt about it. There are no exceptions. Which means that Lord Shiva follows Ekadashi and Lord Indra follows, all the demigods follow Ekadashi. In the Mahabharata it is said that Astitanya vrata dinani apumulam phalampaya havi brahma kamyacha guru vachan aushadam. That under some conditions one may not follow Ekadashi. Astitanya vrata dinani apumulam phalampaya havi brahma kamyacha guru vachan aushadam. Aushadam means medicines. That with the permission of the Guru, and if the Guru says that, so if a person is sick, if the person has a medical condition because of which they cannot, they have to eat grains. So not whimsically, but Guru Vachan, that Guru says, then the person need not follow Ekadashi. And there is a related pastime in Mahabharata about Bhima, that once Krishna was sitting with Bhima and talking to him about the glories of Ekadashi and the sins of not being able to follow Ekadashi. So Bhima at that point became very perturbed, and then he told Krishna, he says, I never follow Ekadashi because I am a Krodra. I have this fire in my belly that if I don't satisfy it with food, then it will burn me. So I need to eat. So Krishna said there's no exceptions. So Bhima became very concerned. Then Krishna said, Vyasadeva is over here and he has written the entire scriptures. So you go and ask him. So Bhima turned to Vyasadeva and he begged him to give him some understanding of what he can do. So then Srila Vyasadeva told Bhima that, again, same, if for certain reasons, if an Ekadashi is accidentally broken, or if the person is sick and the Ekadashi cannot be followed, then the recommendation is that one Ekadashi in a year that appears in the Jeshth Maksh, in the in the Shukla fortnight, in the waxing moon of the Jyesht Maas, if one follows that Ekadashi completely without drinking any water, then one gets the benefit of following all the other 23 Ekadashis. Right? So there are 24 Ekadashis in a year. And if one, so this is not that one deliberately does not follow any Ekadashi and compensates by doing Pandav Nirja, but because of conditions, like the condition that is given here, that Guru Vachanam also come, that the person needs to take medicine which has grains, or for some other reason that one has to eat grain, then at least by following this Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. It appears in the Jyesht March, which is May, June, and the waxing moon. That gives the same benefit. So in the Bhavishya Puran it is said, Ekadasham niraro yo bhongte dvadashe dina nasa durgati apnoti narkani cha pashyati. That one who follows Ekadashi and eats on Dwadashi, Ekadashyam niraharo, one who does not eat on Ekadashi, yo bhongte Dwadashi dina, and one who eats on Dwadashi, nasa durgati apnoti, no ill fortune will ever befall the person, narkanti cha pashyati, and the person will never see hellish planets. Similarly, in the Garud Puran and Vishnu Puran, it is mentioned that Ekadashi vratam yaha karoti narasada sa Vishnu lok vrajanti yati Vishnu swaruptama. That one Ekadashi vratam yatha, that one who regularly follows Ekadashi vrata, sa Vishnu lok vrajanti, he will undoubtedly go to the abode of Lord Vishnu, and yati Vishnu swaruptama, and he will get a form like Lord Vishnu, sarupi mukti. Right? So he will go to Vaikuntha and get a form like Lord Vishnu. So there are many pastimes related to the potency of Ekadashi. There is one pastime that appears in the Skanda Puran, and I'll share that with you. In the Skanda Puran it is mentioned that there was a king in the Raghuvansha. So this is the same dynasty in which Lord Ram appears. It's Suryavansh dynasty. The name of the king was Rupamangata, and he had a most beautiful flower garden that was so fragrant that the fragrance would go all the way to heaven. So once Urvashi, she is an Apsara, she became very attracted by the fragrance, and then along with her other friends, she followed the fragrance all the way down to the garden of King Rupamangata, and they were very much enchanted by the garden. So then every night they would come and they would spend time in the garden, and morning they would go away. So one day, while they were going back, in haste, Urvashi's the pallu of her sari was caught in the thorns of an eggplant tree. Now, as per Skanda Puran, eggplant is considered to be in the mode of Rajo and Tamo Guna. So, because of her contact with something in the mode of passion and ignorance, Urvashi, she lost her piety. Actually, in the Skanda Puran, it is said that one should not eat meat, one should not take intoxication, and one should not eat eggplants. So, because she came in contact with the sins of the eggplant, Kshina Punya Mrituloke, that she lost her piety and she could not go back to heaven. So as the day happened, all her friends left because they were terrified of staying in the earthly planet. It's a place of chaos, sins. So Urvashi started crying that she did not know what would the humans do to her. So at that time the king, he came to the garden and he saw Urvashi crying, and being a king from Raghuvamshi, he was a king with morals. So he immediately came forward and he said, my dear mother, who are you? Why are you crying like that? So when Urvashi heard the king address her as mother, she became pacified. And then she told that I am Urvashi and I am stuck over here. So somehow I have to go back to heaven. So the king said, anything I can do to help. So she says the only way to go to heaven is by accruing sufficient piety. And the king said that if in my kingdom anybody had the piety, they would have already gone back to heaven. So Urvashi said that yesterday was Ekadashi. Now King Rupangata did not know about the glories of Ekadashi. So then he asked her, what is Ekadashi? And so she explained about Ekadashi. So the king said that my kingdom people don't know about it. So nobody has fasted. And then Urvashi said that even if somebody has accidentally fasted, that should give the requisite piety. So the king sent all his soldiers around to see if somebody had accidentally fasted. And they came across a woman who was sitting and crying. So they asked her, why are you crying? She said, well, I work in this store and yesterday I was careless, so I broke a pot. My master was very angry at me and he put me outside the house. He hasn't given me anything to eat. The soldiers were happy. They said, you haven't eaten anything the whole day yesterday? She said, no. So they said, we will give you an elaborate meal to eat, sumptuous meal to eat, you come with us. So the lady came and the king asked her if she was willing to help Urvashi, and the lady agreed. So she gave her piety to Urvashi, and Urvashi immediately, she acquired her effulgence and rose back and went to heaven. And then it says that after that the king strictly started following Ekadashi along with all the citizens in his kingdom. And then when the time came, then the king along with all the citizens ascended and went back to Vaikuntha. So we have heard about the glories of Ekadashi. We have also heard about the injunctions not following Ekadashi. So how to follow Ekadashi? So firstly, we have to understand that there are two kinds of Ekadashi. One is known as one is known as Sampurna Ekadashi and the second is known as Vidha Ekadashi. So Sampurna Ekadashi is one where there is no mixture of Dashami or Dwadashi. So one thing that we have to, I guess, be cognizant about is that the days are solar days. So the day starts when the sun rises and the day ends when the sun sets, right? So they're following the solar cycle, but these tithis are following the lunar cycle. So they don't always overlap. So Sampurna Ekadashi is when the Ekadashi actually falls on within the realm of the sunrise and the sunset of the day. So it resonates with the solar day. And those Ekadashis are suitable for fasting. Second Ekadashi is called Vidha Ekadashi. And Vidha Ekadashi are two kinds. One is Purvidha Ekadashi. So Purvidha Ekadashi is when before the sun or within an hour and 36 minutes before the sun rises, Dwadashi is still continuing. So the end of the Dasami is still continuing. So the end of Dasami is within 1 hour or 1 hour 36 minutes prior to the rising of the sun of the Ekadashi day. And in the Padma Purana it is said that Daitanama Pushti Vardhan, that such Ekadashis is Pushti Vardhan Daitanam, that it nourishes asuric qualities. So one who fasts on this Ekadashi, their tamasic qualities become strong. So such Ekadashis are not followed. The day next to that is followed. That is why sometimes you will see that the Ekadashi on the ISKCON calendar is different from the Ekadashi by Navamsha, just by the astronomical calendars, because the Ekadashi has been contaminated by the Dashami. So even though it's Ekadashi astronomically, but because of this injunction, the Ekadashi is not followed. So then the day is adjusted to the next day. The second Vida Ekadashi is Parvida Ekadashi, where the ending of the Ekadashi is mixed with the Dwadashi, which means that before the sunset of Ekadashi, the Dwadashi Muhurat has started. And this is known as Vaishnava Ekadashi. It is considered to be auspicious. So Vaishnavas follow Sampurna Ekadashi and Parvida Ekadashi. There is a third kind of Ekadashi that is called Trisparsha Ekadashi. This happens very rarely when the Ekadashi day is mixed with all the three tithis. That there is Dwadashi, Ekadashi and Triyodashi, all three of them are mixed. So it is said that fasting on Trisparsha Ekadashi is equivalent to fasting for 1000 Ekadashis. And I don't remember that happening, but hopefully if it happens and we come to know about it, we can follow it strictly. And then of course we spoke about the Pandav Nirjal Ekadashi, the Pandav Nirjal Ekadashi that appears in the month of Jyeshta, May or June. So from a practical perspective, how to keep Ekadashi, it is said that the preparation begins on the day before Ekadashi. So one should not eat after 5 p.m. on Dashmi. And the reason is that by the time the Ekadashi starts, the grains have already been digested. The grains have already been burned by the fire of digestion. So there are no grains in the body at the time. One should, so it's a day, it's an upavas. Upavas literally means coming closer to the Lord. So it's a day when one should increase one's spiritual activities. So for us, chanting. And so there are many spiritual masters in ISKCON who, when they give initiation, either the first or second initiation, they take this vow also from the disciples, that on Ekadashi you will chant minimum 25 rounds. And there are people who will chant 64 rounds also on Ekadashi. So because of the potency of Ekadashi, also reading scriptures, reading Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, or reading Bhagavatam. So these are all auspicious. Then of course there are practical considerations. One has to go to work, one goes to work, but one uses whatever time that they have to either chant or to read. In terms of how to follow Ekadashi, again, one has to be practical. One way to follow Ekadashi is that one starts the Ekadashi with Nirjal. And one does not drink water until one needs to drink water. So until one gets thirsty, then one drinks water, and then one does not eat until one gets really hungry. Then when one eats fruits, and then after that one does not eat until one gets weak, if one gets weak, and then one can eat non-grains after that. So that way there is this cadence of austerity. Now if somebody is in good health or somebody has strong willpower, then they may not drink for the entire day. But if somebody is not, then at least they perform this austerity of not drinking till the time that they were thirsty. And then they have not eaten till the time that they're really hungry, and then they only eat cooked food if the fruits are not, it's not sufficient. So one also avoids activities that are considered to be a waste of time, like one that anchors one in a bodily conception. Things like cutting hair or shaving or taking oil massages, etc. From a practical perspective, if one is cooking to eat on Ekadashi, then it's good to keep separate. So good to keep your spices separate, Ekadashi spices, just to prevent mixing of grains. Good to keep your pots separate, or if you can't, then keep the pots very clean, because even accidental consumption of grains is considered to be sinful. And just as fasting for Ekadashi is important, breaking fast the next day is also important. So according to the astronomical calculation, there is a period of time that is given, that Muhurat is given, and then one should try and you break fast by taking grains. So then it should be important that one should take grains. Also important is that Ekadashi should be followed happily. That one should not do it under compulsion, or what's the word, with a lot of reluctance. Oh, another Ekadashi is come, oh my God, I have to follow Ekadashi. But essentially it's a day. So Ekadashi is known as Dharma Janini, Bhakti Janani. So it's the day that nurtures and cultivates bhakti. And who should follow Ekadashi? Everyone should follow Ekadashi. It's generally said that between ages of 8 to 80 years of age, one should follow. Children below 8 years should not follow Ekadashi, but otherwise everyone should follow Ekadashi. So, and of course, one should break the Ekadashi fast with nice prasadam. So one can cook sumptuous prasadam, offer to the Lord, and then honor it on Dwadashi. So that mood of happiness continues. That there is happiness in following Ekadashi, and there is happiness in breaking the fast at Dwadashi. Okay? So, yeah, so I'll stop over here and see if we have discussions.
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji. In the beginning of the class, you mentioned about the demon Senkachuda. In Tulsi Devi's pastime also, there was a demon. I think her husband, that demon is Senkachuda, right, Prabhuji? Or is he the same person?
Not sure. There's a demon called So there are two demons that appear in Tulsi pastimes. One is Jalandhari and the other is Shankachura. Jalandhari is the one who appears during the churning of the ocean. And Shankachura is also another demon. Jalandhari marries Tulsi, Shankachura actually marries Vrinda. Name is the same. I'm not sure if he's the same demon.
Yes, Prabhuji. Because I think in Vrindavan Leela also there was one Sankachuda demon, right, Prabhuji? That
There's a
who
demon.
lusts after gopis.
Yeah. I think it's a popular name amongst demons. So,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Some people say, during Ekadashi night, you're not supposed to sleep, or do bhajan until, I don't know, exactly.
Or sleep on the floor also.
the general principle is that any austerities that you perform on Ekadashi, you get a lot of benefit for it. So, any austerities that you perform, like sleeping on the floor, taking cold water bath, etc., they all because of the benediction given by the Lord. So, for Vaishnavas, the way that we get the mercy of the Lord is mostly by Krishna Katha and Jap, not so much focus on additional physical austerities. But yes, I know of people who who will get up, take a cold water bath in early morning, and I also know that I don't know personally, but I heard of people who stay awake at night to follow Ekadashi. So they're all benefits because of the mercy of the Lord to those who are purposefully doing austerities for His pleasure. Bhakta Ramyaka Tapasama, right? They're purposefully doing it for His pleasure.
Yeah, because there was some discussion even as to stay in temple regarding this, Bhakti Vilas book. So, when some devotees were opinion, Prabhupada never taught all those things. Prabhupada's whole idea of Ekadashi, fast from grain and meats and do the service, when there is book distribution. So, they never recommended, to fully fast, completely fast and not do anything. So because Bhakti Vilas, the book came later on, right? It was not at the time of Prabhupada, probably.
So Hari Bhakti Vilas is the book was there. I mean, book of course was there because Sanatana Goswami. It's a 500-year-old book, right? So the book was there, and it's based mostly on writings from Padma Purana and Skanda Purana. So the injunctions were there. Prabhupada, he made adjustments for Kal Desh Patra, right? He made different kinds of adjustments. And the amount of service that was being done by his disciples at the time was at a different level. They were working 12 hours a day, etc. So sometimes what we do is we only pluck the roots, we don't pluck the fruits, we don't look at the roots. Right? So Prabhupada, there are instances where he asked devotees not to do Ekadashi because they were doing so much of service or they were traveling there. So sometimes people take that and say, Prabhupada said don't do Ekadashi. And Prabhupada did not follow Ekadashi sometimes. Once when he was traveling, he did not follow Ekadashi. So people say, well, Prabhupada did not follow Ekadashi. Yeah, once he did not follow, right? But he always said that one should follow Ekadashi.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. And I think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also told, her mother, at least do Ekadashi always. So we can take that part. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always recommended to do the Ekadashi.
Yeah, he actually he wanted to send somebody to spy on his mother to make sure that she keeps Ekadashi. I forget who he asked, and that devotee actually then chastises Mahaprabhu that your mother is a pure devotee, don't speak like that. And then he gets embarrassed. So yeah. But Ekadashi is more important. So I know once I was in Vrindavan and it was Ekadashi and we were in Loi Bazaar and somebody came and they were offering some prasadams, pedas. So we took the pedas and we said we'll eat it the next day. So the shopkeeper got very upset at us, saying that you're insulting prasadam and you're too much into following rules and regulations. You don't understand the heart of bhakti. So then we asked Guru Maharaj, and then Guru Maharaj said, no, there's a pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Jagannath Prasadam was offered to Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu and his disciples or his devotees, they circumambulated the Jagannath Mahaprasad, but they did not eat it. They said we'll eat it the next day. Okay. Akshay Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for covering this topic. I think the last point that you mentioned in your lecture about not being happy while doing Ekadashi is very relevant for me. I think personally speaking, I've never fasted until I came into ISKCON. And I mean, on days that I feel it's very forceful when I'm doing Ekadashi. So, doing bhakti or on unusual days when I feel that I could be more putting in more of my attention in all of the devotional activities. On day of Ekadashi, I feel that the feeling of the restriction, it overpowers the earlier one. So I'm hoping that will get better someday. What do I do in the meantime?
It will definitely get better because when we are doing Sadhana Bhakti, we do it externally first. But we understand what's our mood and how do we follow it. So we can't expect to become ecstatic right at the beginning that Ekadashi fasting. Nobody likes. Most of the people don't like fasting. When we still do Ekadashi, so we are doing it under the instructions of the scriptures and Guru. Then the potency of the following that Ekadashi will purify us, right? So the recommendation is to follow Ekadashi, right? That's the recommendation. And secondary recommendations are whichever for that follow that do it happily, try and increase the rounds and minimize your material. But those are not that if you don't do it, you're committing sinful activities, right? It's not that if you follow Ekadashi and you're not happy, it's not a sin. Those are embellishments. They help you get more potency. Not following Ekadashi is a sin, but you follow Ekadashi and you're not able to do 24/7 bhajan. You're not able to follow complete fast. You're not able to have a happy mood. So they are embellishments. If you're able to do that, you get more benefit. If you're not able to do that, it just means that some more purification is needed. And the process of purification is this, that as you follow Ekadashi, you get purified. As you chant more, you get purified. So it means that you just have to travel more on that path.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay, so if nobody has any other questions, we can stop here and chant one round together, and then after that we will we will have our Nursing Day prayers.